make more good in the all-new Sportage X-Pro. Kia, movement that inspires.
Quaker Steak and Lube is throwing open the garage doors and setting up the umbrellas. It's patio season. Come enjoy great food, drinks, and fun in the sun. There's always something happening at Quaker Steak and Lube, but we're really amping up our event calendars for our favorite time of year. Visit thelube.com to find out what's happening at your local lube this season. Lunch, happy hour, dinner, or late night, indoors or outside, at Quaker Steak and Lube, you'll always find big flavors, friendly faces, and lots of fun.
New Trail Brewing Company proudly crafts their beers right here in central Pennsylvania. Brewed with only the best possible ingredients, New Trail produces a variety of year-round brands as well as weekly experimental recipes. New Trail Broken Heels is Pennsylvania's favorite local hazy IPA. This beer is smooth and full-bodied. Hand-selected Citra hops lead to notes of bright clementine and juicy ruby red grapefruit. Broken Heels is perfect for a pregame tailgate all the way through the victory celebration.
What's the best mid-size pickup? Tacoma. What's the number one mid-size truck in resale value? Tacoma. Want to get great gas mileage, 4 doors, and 4-wheel drive? Tacoma. Sioka Toyota of Williamsport has over 25 available right now. You can lease a brand new, never-driven Toyota Tacoma for just $379 a month. That's 30 months, $3,000 cash or trade, 10,000 miles a year. This is while supplies last. Buy yours or reserve yours today and see the Sioka difference. And remember, tell them Johnny sent you.
Hey-o, welcome everybody to this special remote edition of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show, minus Ironhead. We got a little COVID quarantine going on my end, unfortunately. Not me, but in the household, so just keeping things safe. Ironhead is off to follow the Penn State wrestling team. He's traveling, so I'm your fill-in host, Chris Pucanati, with former Penn State offensive lineman Keith Goon Conlon. What's happening?
What up, Boots? How are you?
I'm doing well. Want to remind everybody that even though we are not out at Quaker Steak and Lube today, they are open for business, and the all-you-can-eat wing bar is going to open up as we go off the air at 4 o'clock. The beer is cold, the televisions are on, and the wings are delicious as ever. So go out and join our friends at the Lube, our gracious hosts, where we will be back next week, and we'll be back. I'll be back again on these airwaves a week from now. And talking about the Philadelphia Eagles taking that journey from a really, really successful draft in April to Glendale. Good stuff, Goon.
What a year, buddy. 2 times. I mean, I guess me and Ironhead got into a little bit in the show the other day, but
yeah.
2 times, 5 years, 2 new coaches, 2 new OCs, DCs, quarterbacks, everything. Everything has been completely replaced. And Howie, again, we'll say it out loud. I got to eat Eagle. I won't eat Crow, but I'll eat Eagle. When it comes to Howie and his first-round picks, I still have an issue with. But 2 through free agency we're happy with. And then the obviously with Laurie making coaching decisions and stuff like that, I mean, I know there's been some turnover here and there, but I mean, it's been a pretty special 5 years, huh?
Yeah. Oh, awesome. And allow me to be the first to eat poo on my criticism of Howie Roseman.
Yep.
Because when he selected Jalen Hurts,
I was furious. As I was.
I thought this was nuts. This was a crazy course of events. Because to take you back in time, Philadelphia had just signed Carson Wentz to his big post-rookie deal. And
I didn't understand it.
Yeah, like it was crazy because my feeling was if you believed in Carson Wentz, you shouldn't have given him the money. And if you didn't believe in Carson Wentz, or if you didn't believe in him, you shouldn't give him the money. And if you did, then you should have used your second-round pick to put a weapon on the team instead of drafting a backup quarterback. But clearly, you go back to the analysis of you will not believe that somebody just absolutely pounding on my front door right now. This is the joys of doing these shows remotely. But like, so you
draftable Wentz.
Yeah,
Wentz,
thank you.
yeah.
Totally obliterated my my attention span here. Yeah. So anyway, you go back to how he's thinking at the time, and I think this was a correct psychoanalysis of where he was at. Years and years ago, the Eagles had their eyes, when Andy Reid was there, totally fixated on Russell Wilson. They brought him in. They were one of the teams that brought him in, worked him out the most, and they believed that they had an absolute steal because they were in on how good he was going to be, and no one else in the league knew it. And they also believed that they could be too clever by half and let him slip down to the mid rounds. And Seattle got in and took Wilson, picks before how he thought he was going to be able to get him. And so he resolved,
if you recall.
Absolutely. And he was, and if you look back at it, you would have been justified to take Russell Wilson in the first 5 picks of that draft. I think he went in the 5th round.
4th.
And so how he resolved that if he had ever had a chance to grab a guy who he loved that much again, he wasn't going to listen to conventional wisdom. He wasn't going to try to outsmart every other team in the league. He was going to make the pick when he had the pick. And that's how he felt about Jalen Hurts. So he took him. And at the time, to me, that seemed absolutely ludicrous. And in retrospect, it was genius because the Eagles are in the Super Bowl and Jalen's gotten better every single year he's been in the NFL.
Did you ever think that it was a Carson Wentz, Taysom Hill type of situation with Jalen Hurts? You know what I mean?
The conventional wisdom at the time. And again, it seemed absolutely insane to use a 2nd round pick on Taysom Hill. But I don't think that was ever in the Eagles' consideration.
So he truly drafted him. You think he was already shot on Wentz?
I think they had to have at least at some level known that they were in such a weird position with him because prior to the injury in 2017, he was playing like a guy who was worth drafting 2nd overall at an MVP level. And then he got hurt a couple of times and you had to make a decision because of the timing of his contract. Are we going to double down on this guy or are we going to let him walk? And you felt like you had seen enough and invested enough that you didn't want to let him walk. So you had to pay him the money. But look at what has happened with him ever since, career-wise. Look at everything that's come out about him in Philadelphia. They had to know inside the building that even though they were kind of stuck giving him the contract at the time, they weren't fully bought in. So I think it was always a situation of they were drafting potentially his replacement.
Yeah. Remember the offensive line and somebody we know pretty close who had a brother-in-law who was in the NFL said he had heard word that if Nick Foles was going to be the quarterback, that half the NFL free agents would join the Eagles. You recall that?
Yeah, because it's a good organization to play for. They had a lot of talent.
But they knew something about Wentz that we didn't.
Yeah.
Definitely something about Wentz that we didn't see as fans.
And to me, 2 locations in 2 years where he's totally burned out all capital in the locker room. I mean, there's no doubt it's him, right?
Still getting draft picks traded for him. I mean, it's unbelievable what he has been worth to teams and how they just throw him away. It's just.
Well, the league always has a coach. You've always said if you're a 1st-round pick, you get 3 chances.
3 chances yep.
And there's always a coach who believes that they can do what nobody else did. And so everyone will always be fixated on the first, 10, 11 games of the 2017 season and say, we've seen him do it. We've seen him play at an MVP level, and I'm the one to fix him.
Well, who was that guy? It was Frank Reich, so he brings him to Indianapolis because obviously Doug Peterson had enough of them and shipped them out.
Right.
So that he goes to the only coach that the word that I heard from the staff at the Eagles was the only person he ever really listened to was Frank Reich.
Yep.
And then what happens there? He burns out Frank Reich. Costs Frank Reich a job. You're going to see if Wentz might go to Carolina possibly to be one of Frank Reich's guys. And if not, then it means that he's completely burned every bridge in the NFL.
So I've had a theory about Carson Wentz for several years now. And we're about to see whether it's maybe going to come to fruition.
Serial
If you
killer?
remember, the Browns had the number 2 pick in the draft. That's who Philadelphia traded for. And at the time when it looked like he was going to be a franchise quarterback, I was like, well, of course the Browns would give up a chance to pass up a guy who's going to be great. And that's how the Eagles are going to benefit. Now, it didn't exactly work out that way. The Eagles still won a Super Bowl, and I still think they probably don't do it without that beginning of the season to Carson Wentz, because he's the one who put them in position to have the bye and home field advantage in the playoffs. And that made all the difference against Atlanta in the divisional round. And then they absolutely smoked Minnesota in Philly. I think that was really, really big. But I have always thought that Carson's career was going to end up with him as a veteran backup in Cleveland, and we might see it as soon as next season.
Oh, as a complete, ground goes that whole 360 degrees, comes all the way back around, and he's playing for the Browns as a backup to Deshaun Watson.
Correct.
Who did the Eagles trade for Wentz? What did the Browns get, and who did they pick? Do you recall? You're better at this than I am.
Yeah, you know what? I am usually pretty good at that stuff off the top of my head, but it
I'm
got
sitting here
convoluted because the Browns then ended up trading some of the assets that they got in the trade from Philadelphia. So
Absolutely.
I forget how it ended up, who got where.
But, I mean, you should do that. How many people have been traded for Carson Wentz, and what were the draft picks? I mean,
oh my God! When you start factoring in like the Colts and the Redskins or the Commanders, and it gets really convoluted. He's been traded 3 times technically because the Browns traded the rights to draft him.
All right, so I have a scenario for you. I talked about it with Ironhead the other day, and this is all my theory. I've heard nothing of it from anybody else, or even if it's a possibility, probably get laughed out of the room by 99% of the people. Howie Roseman, we are a quarterback. What do they call it? The quarterback. The
quarterback factory.
Quarterback factory.
Yeah.
So we know, you and I have talked for 4 years now about the importance of a quarterback being on a rookie contract.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so they're going to have to start paying Jalen Hurts a lot of money real soon.
Yeah, probably like this offseason, yes.
Do they trade him for picks because they are cocky and feeling that they can produce quarterbacks? I mean, you could get a king's ransom right now for Jalen Hurts. Somebody will give up multiple picks.
Well,
and
so let's go back
into the draft to get another quarterback in the second, third, or fourth round.
Let's go back to the analogy in the draft of comparing Jalen Hurts to Russell Wilson. Russ won a Super Bowl on his rookie deal.
Yep.
And then the Seahawks
were
after he signed his big money contract, but they never won another Super Bowl. Now, look, part of that is Pete Carroll made the worst coaching call in the history of football to not give the ball to beast mode on the goal line against New England. But again, I guess the question is, when you look at what Seattle got for Russ Wilson, would you go back in time and advise them like, hey, guys, buy low, sell high, just unload him before you sign him to another big contract? I mean, they were right there.
The Eagles to try something like that. Because you know as well as I do, they're not going to be able to keep that offensive line together, that defense together, and those wide receivers we're both of the same ilk when it comes to running backs. You know, you spend $3 million on your 3 or 4 running backs, and that's it. It's all you need.
Yep.
Okay, so you run the guy who's hot, but would you put it past Howie to go trade Hurts right now? Keep A.J. Brown, keep Devontae Smith. You know, you're going to lose Lane Johnson and Kelsey soon enough, but you're going to, you got Jonathan Davis at nose. I think Fletcher's going to go away soon. I mean, why would you? I mean, if again, this is my theory that he is sell high right now. You know, someone else could take a big old contract out there, and they could pick up 2 or 3 more first-round draft picks, take a stud quarterback, do the same routine they've done in the last 5 years.
This is like a very Michael Lewis, I mean, the Moneyball author, not the former Eagles starting safety approach to this. I don't think.
As long as it's not Greg Lewis.
I don't think that would happen, but would I put it past them? No. And like I said, it's not crazy. Like, it may sound insane, but there's a certain logic to it. The one thing I will say is Howie, I think, fashions himself to be such a wizard with the cap that he will probably be able to figure out some way to sign Jalen Hurts to a big money multi-year deal, but somehow like mask the cap implications of it for years and years on end. So they'll probably try to split the difference there.
See, I don't understand. He's going to get upwards of 30. He's not in the $40, $50 million range yet, correct? What do you think? And by the way, Mahomes won his Super Bowl. Mahomes won his Super Bowl on a rookie contract, right?
Correct.
It is a huge thing. It is such a big, big, big thing. I mean, again, I go back to what I say on every show when I talk about it. There should be two. There should be a quarterback cap, and then there should be a rest of team cap type of thing. So, I mean, I think that the NFL cap is going to be $18 million next season.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what do the Eagles have to spend type of thing, you know?
Well, there are going to be retirements. I mean, especially if they win it next week.
Oh, I do not expect Kelsey to be back no matter what. I think Kelsey and I think Lane Johnson are both done.
You think Lane?
I think so.
I don't know, man. I think he has the sense that he has a potential Hall of Fame career on his hands, but he needs to keep playing to get there, kind of like Kelsey a few years ago.
If he wins out, if he wins a second Super Bowl, I think he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. I mean,
you think he's in?
The way they've been talking about him
with the steroid stuff.
Well, I mean, it's not baseball, so I mean, he didn't lie.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Took his punishment.
When you get to that point in your career, and I go, who knows, man? Like, I don't know what goes through your head at that point, but I would think that if you think you've got a legit chance to wear a yellow jacket and you can still play and make a lot of money doing it, I would think you keep doing it. So I think Kelsey, I could see for sure, who's been talking about retiring for like 3 seasons.
I think he's done win, lose, or draw. I think this is his last game.
Yeah, but Lane, I think maybe could come back. I think Fletcher Cox might be a retirement candidate.
I think he's definitely a cap
or a cap cut.
I don't think he'll be in his last game next week for sure as an Eagle.
Brandon Graham, another guy, although he's not actually making that much.
I don't think he's making as much as Fletcher Cox or Lane Johnson, or there's no way. So he's always been a cap-friendly type of guy. I mean, there's a reason why he's been on the team the longest.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So,
and Andy Reid holdover. Him and Kelsey, they were Andy Reid guys.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Somebody was talking about the other day. I mean, I'm pretty sure I blacked it out of my memory with the Chip Kelly era. I mean, oh my God. The stories we used to hear coming out of Philadelphia for that guy was unbelievable. So, but Lane was a Chip Kelly guy.
Yes.
So
if you look back on the Chip Kelly era, he made like one of the worst all-time Eagles first-round picks with Smith. I can't even remember the guy's first name. The linebacker from Louisville.
Yes.
Michael Smith or I don't know, whatever. He stunk. He never played. But Chip actually added some really important pieces to the team through the draft. Zach Ertz.
He drafted Wentz, right?
Was a Chip Kelly pick?
Was Wentz a Chip Kelly pick, or Ertz was for sure?
Yeah. Zach and Lane Johnson both were. I don't think. God.
I mean, he had 2 drafts.
Yeah, no, he was not. That was
Doug was there for 2 years, right?
Yeah.
And then Sirianni's in there for 2 years.
Yeah, Wentz was Doug Peterson's first year.
Wow. Who was Andy Reid's? Wasn't a draft pick, but who was his starting quarterback? I mean, you know that story.
Yeah, Dougie P.
They came in from Green Bay but then they took McNabb. You know what, Booch? I had to talk to somebody last week about the Philadelphia fans of why they booed Donovan McNabb. And they were like, oh, it's because he's a black quarterback and they didn't want him. I'm like, no. It was Ricky Williams they wanted. Huh?
Is it somebody really thinks that?
Well, it's a younger person who had no idea.
They had no idea. Yeah, it was. First of all, it was because everybody wanted Ricky Williams.
For why?
And you know
now why?
Because of Ed Rendell.
Well, no, they had visions of Ricky Williams playing center field.
Oh, for the Phillies.
Right. And then going over and playing running back for the Eagles.
He was a Phillies draft pick. Yeah, they thought it was going to be Bo Jackson, and Ed Rendell talked them all up. But I have heard this story over the years, and I don't know if this is true or not. But of course, it's like if you're of a certain age, infamous story that Donovan McNabb's draft selection was booed. I heard that a lot of those guys were planted by WIP to boo any pick that wasn't Ricky Williams.
What, do you put it past them?
No, not at all. So I don't even know if it was organic booing or a sports talk radio stunt. But either way, it had nothing to do with McNabb being a black quarterback. It was about Ricky Williams.
It's just like they had so many different options. Everybody wanted Ricky Williams.
People think that. That's crazy.
Yep. But
my God, this was this was the city that fell in love with Randall Cunningham when black starting quarterbacks in the NFL were pretty uncommon. If I was a little smarter and a little bit older, I would have appreciated how good the defenses were on those teams. But whatever. I was like 7, 8 years old. Randall Cunningham was my favorite player.
Yeah.
The human highlight reel.
Oh, I've lost the boots.
Well, Goon just zipped out for a minute. I'm sure he's going to log back in, and I'm sure everybody is thrilled in what is largely Pittsburgh Steelers country, hearing us mostly talking about the Philadelphia Eagles.
Back.
Here, Goon is back. I just said I'm sure here in mostly Steelers country, people are thrilled to hear us talking all about the Eagles. But you and I only get to do the show every so often. We haven't got to talk a lot of Eagles this year, so we're catching up. And they're in the Super Bowl. It's timely. It's newsworthy.
Absolutely, and you got to give it to the boys. I mean, we say it all the time, but Howie deserves a lot of credit for this team. The turnover he has. But did you like my theory of the possibility he may trade that pick?
I will give you this. When you said you'd get laughed out of the room 99% of the time, you're right. It's probably not going to happen, but it is also not nearly as crazy as some people might think.
Yeah. I mean, the way it is set up right now I really want to hammer that point today, and that is the way it's set up. I mean, Burrow's on a rookie contract still, right? He's going to get paid real soon. Hurts and Burrow are the same class.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So those two are going to get paid. So they're going to take, predominantly most of all of the money. I mean, can they do it? Can they keep Hurts this year? Again, I guess you do lose Kelsey's contract. If you lose Fletcher Cox's contract, that's you got to replace those two, but you can do it on the cheap, and the money could go towards Jalen. But in the long run, it's not that you can't do that. The Aaron Rodgers collecting $51 million of the team cap is insane to me, but I don't think the Eagles are going to go that route.
I don't think so either. I do think it's possible, like I said, that given the nature of his contract, where he still has a couple of years left, and everything, all the wizardry we have seen Howie Roseman work with the cap, that he figures out some way to minimize the damage of signing him to a longer-term deal. Because I will say, they threw a ton of money at Carson Wentz and still managed to put a pretty good team around him. The reason why those teams didn't advance farther, partially was because maybe Carson's a head case, but he was playing, even when he's playing well, he would get hurt, at the end of the season. You remember that game where Jadeveon Clowney was playing for the Seahawks, and he hit him from behind. He gets the concussion and he goes out, and then 41-year-old Josh McCown with a torn
hamstring.
quad or something. A hamstring, that's what it was. Played the whole game. He's 41 years old playing on a torn hamstring. Speaking of 40-year-old quarterbacks, Goon, your thoughts on the retirement?
On the GOAT?
Yep.
He is that. There's no doubt in my mind. I mean,
no doubt in your mind.
None.
Okay.
Not even remotely. Who do you think would be closest? Would be Joe Montana.
Montana, I think, is the other guy in the conversation.
When did when did Tom Brady have the greatest wide receiver in the history of the game throwing to him with James Taylor, Dwight Clark, Brent Jones, Tom Rathman, Roger Craig? I mean,
by the way, John Taylor. If he threw a touchdown pass to James Taylor, then he'd definitely be the GOAT.
I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, the amount of talent that the 49ers had.
Yeah, no question. I don't disagree with you, but I know there are people out there who would. So I just wanted to be devil's advocate.
They're going to sit there and say that Brady was cheating because everything was all sketchy. There's a lot of sketchy stuff surrounding that dude and the Patriots.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
I mean, the Eagles being one of those teams who feel like they were slighted a little bit in the Super Bowl. I mean,
Arlen Specter wanted to start a federal investigation. Do you remember that?
I mean, the man created the magic bullet theory. He should be able to get a freaking congressional hearing about somebody taping Super Bowl practices. I mean, if you remember, honest to God, Brian Dawkins even said it like a week after the game, was complaining about if we blitzed right, they screened left. If they blitzed left, they screened right. He goes, it's almost like they knew what we were doing. And I remember reading that and looking back on it, like when this all came out, I was like, what's going on there? I mean, it's a little shady, a little sketchy, you know?
It was almost as if, well, two things. At the time, and maybe he still is, but at the time, definitely, Robert Kraft was one of the most powerful and influential owners in the league. Like I know it's a little club, but there is definitely like a cool kid stable inside the club, and he was
like getting caught in a massage parlor and facing no charges whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Like that type of power.
So there was that. There was also, I think, some sense that if they came down too hard on the Patriots, it would be like the NFL admitting that the results of the Super Bowl were not legit, and it was like they almost didn't want to do it. Right? They wanted to just they were caught red-handed, so they had to slap them down a little bit, but they didn't want to come down on them too hard.
Yeah.
Now, if you're Major League Baseball, you have an even worse controversy, and you just basically ignore it.
Like it didn't happen. No, whatever. We weren't tested for it. Well, how about Arian Foster?
I was talking about the Astros, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, how about Arian Foster?
Did you actually watch the clip of him
saying he has actually seen the scripts that were playing out and stuff like that?
Yeah, but did you actually watch the clip of him saying it?
No.
He's clearly joking.
Oh.
Like, if you watch him, he's obviously not being serious. But I thought there were some amazing memes, like where they would show like Tom Brady, and it's like Tom Brady to Matt Ryan at the Super Bowl 51 script reading. Like, there's some really good ones.
You're down 28.
I don't think he was seriously suggesting.
You're down 28-3, and you're going to come back and win. Matt Ryan's like, what? No way. Crazy. No, I mean, but people think that.
I know. Yeah, I know. I know they do. There were, plenty of San Francisco 49ers fans who believe that after Brock Purdy got hit, the call came down from the league office where, you can't have Josh Johnson or Christian McCaffrey quarterbacking a Super Bowl team, so make sure the Eagles win.
Hey, I you might know it, I don't know. But when did the third quarterback rule get shelved? Because there was always a third quarterback dressed.
Yeah, I don't know.
But why would they get rid of that? He didn't count against a 53 unless he was needed.
Yeah, I don't know the philosophy around that. Although, to be honest with you, I'm not one of these people who's screaming and yelling for them to bring that back, because I think that's a strategic decision. Look, plenty of teams have carried three quarterbacks, and you just got to give up somewhere else.
Okay. Now, I know you haven't been doing the show in a while, but you heard what I told Ironhead about what scares me about next year with in the coming years with quarterbacks in college.
What's that?
And that is that, all these kids are jumping out and getting into the portal if they're not named starters or given the position. So we were very spoiled here with the backup quarterback situation we had here. But, quarterback depth in college is going to become an issue. So what I'm saying is it might go back to the days of Florida State when they used to actually advertise that they were out quarterback hunting, and they knocked out 9 of the 13 starting quarterbacks they played against in games.
Right.
It's a strategic advantage. If you know that their backup quarterback's not really that good, he's just there because their other two backups left at the end of the transfer portal. So knock the guy out, and all of a sudden, boom.
Well, it's like what happened in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah.
Look, there are some guys for sure. There are some guys who play to hurt. Not many of them, but they're out there.
Yeah.
But, in most cases, those were clean hits for sure on both quarterbacks, but they were hard hits. It's like you expose your quarterback, we're going to hit him. And to your point, if you've got your 1 5-star guy out there, and then, whatever crap you were able to cobble together because your other top recruits went in the transfer portal, the shot's there. Guy's going to take it. Just like Iowa did on Sean Clifford 2 years ago.
Yes. But how about Josh Johnson being in the league 15 years and getting his playoff shot as the fourth quarterback? And I got to give Brock Purdy a lot of dap, man, a lot of love, because him going out there, and I know he only attempted 2 passes, but the fact that he still went out there knowing his arm was banged up, but he did it for the team, God bless him.
Yeah.
Good for him.
For sure.
So, but they really need to go. You're right. I guess I could see it in your way, and that is that. But it's another way to keep a 54th guy dressed and stuff like that. And the rule was both of the 1 and 2 have to be done and can't come back if the 13th guy plays.
Yeah, and my prediction is that they are actually going to make that change. I bet you're going to see that happen.
Why did they change it though? I don't. You know what I mean? Why and when did it change?
I don't know. The safe assumption, lacking any other information, is always money, right? Teams just didn't want to pay that guy, so they just said, "Look, get rid of him."
Ugh. Well, you'd have to pay him a game check instead of a
practice squad check.
I guess you're not a practice squad guy though. If you're inactive, you're not considered a practice squad guy.
But do you get paid differently if you're inactive?
No, you get paid the same as inactive. That I recall, but that could be wrong. So, Butch, I have a theory. Okay. I have a solution. Like the backup third goalie that is in an arena who could play for either team. That's what we got to get to with the NFL with quarterbacks. You're going to have a backup quarterback who's going to be in the crowd, but he might have to come out and play for the 49ers.
And it's Ryan Fitzpatrick for every
Correct.
Team.
And it has to. The last name must be Fitzpatrick, or with the guy the guy we were just talking about.
Yes,
him and his brother spent 58 years total in the NFL.
For Josh Johnson, God love him, and it's. I think Josh Johnson, honestly, is one of my favorite modern day NFL players because I think that is just that's a great story to be able to tell your kids and grandkids, right?
Sure.
I played for a small college. He's an HBCU guy, right?
I don't even know.
I think it was Alabama State or something like that. And, just good enough to get into a camp and work his way onto the fringe of a roster. And the dude's turned it into a 12-year, 15-year NFL career. Yeah.
15 years, 72-team career.
Phenomenal. God bless him. I hope he's okay.
People give what's his name? Not Josh Daniels, but Chase Daniels. How much money he's stolen in the NFL as a backup quarterback. But Josh Johnson has been in the league for 15 years.
Chase Daniels has stolen almost as much money as Jason Peters in the last 5 years of his career.
Well, that's what it's Fletcher Cox is going to turn into, or Elaine Johnson may just go around and just say, you know what, play one game, tear a groin, tear an abdomen, sit out the rest of the year. Do you think that Peters is coming back next year?
Sure, why not?
I mean, if somebody's willing to pay him, I mean, come on.
Somebody will pay him. If someone's going to cut the check, he'll be there to take 5
God
snaps,
bless him.
get an injury, and collect $10 million.
If we could do it, we would all do it. You know that.
Absolutely. So to go back to Brady, which is why I was actually pretty surprised after he came back. It totally wrecked his life, apparently. Like, he got a divorce. Now he can't see his kids all the time. I mean, like, what else does he have left to do other than play football? He was good enough to keep playing. Why wouldn't you try to go one more time? Collect one more check.
You're talking about Brady right now, right?
Yeah.
I think that dude's psycho, and I think he got pissed off. I think he got pissed off that last year somebody announced his retirement for him.
I've heard that theory. Yeah.
Yep. I think that he was like, you know what? I'm not going to go out on their terms. I've done everything on my terms. He's that nuts. I mean,
I get it, but at this point, like, when you don't have your stable home life to go back to, Fox is going to hold that contract for as long as you want to keep playing.
Yeah.
I don't know why he wouldn't try to go one more time. Like, I really, really thought for sure a newly single guy in Las Vegas who is, and Tom Brady and Devontae Adams and Josh McDaniels, like, it looked to me, for all the world, really good defense, like that was going to be a landing spot for him for one more season. But not to be. He's done.
Why?
I really think he's done for real.
He was retired this day last year.
Yeah.
I mean, wasn't he retired for 40 days?
I think it's for real this time, though. I do.
Sure.
I didn't buy it last year. I'm
going to put an alarm on my clock on my calendar to check. 42 days from now.
All right.
Hey, man, Jesus ascended to heaven 40 days after his resurrection. Just like Tom Brady, 40 days after his retirement. Is it real or yes or no?
He's going to ascend to the broadcast booth, I think.
Right. Speaking of broadcast booth, how fast has Tony Romo fallen out of favor right now?
Oh, people hate his guts.
It's unbelievable. And I used to sit there, when he first started doing it 3, 4, 5 years ago, I was like, dude, this guy is really good. He's next level. He puts you in the game, the timeouts, the clock management, when to spike it, this and that. But now he tries to do it too much. Does that sound right?
I think he read his own press clippings, and he's almost like a caricature of himself now. Yeah.
And he just goes back to what it just doesn't seem natural anymore to me.
No, I'm with you. I agree.
Yeah.
It almost sounds like he's trying to do an impression of how people think he talks.
Yeah. And then weird. Greg Olson, who was absolutely fantastic to listen to this year, was
out of a job.
Yeah, he's already back up now. He's back. He's the number 2 guy now. He's Moose Johnson.
Which is too bad because I don't know that Brady's going to be that great in that job.
Yeah.
I think you're better off working your way into it.
Well, that's what I was going to get at. I'm sort of interested to hear him call games to see how his mind works and to see if he is going to be assertive, call time out here, you got to throw it here, that, and then just give what he thinks as a quarterback. I think Romo has been out of the game too long I don't know, but he's not fun. He's not nice, not cool to listen to. I don't enjoy it.
Yeah, Olson's very good, man. He's a good balance of personality and analysis. And it's not easy, man. Remember when they gave the Monday Night Football job to Jason Witten, sight unseen, right out of retirement, and he was a total disaster. There is something to letting these guys just call the 3:00 game on CBS a few times, learn it, and then bump them up. If they have a good rookie season, then you give them the starting gig.
What was the big thing about Jason Witten when he did Monday Night Football?
God, I can't even remember. You're just terrible. I just remember he was awful.
His hair growth.
I don't remember that.
You as a bald person should understand that. When he was playing, he was 90% bald. And then he started doing Monday Night Football. He was all shaped up real good.
I did. It's funny. I don't recall that at all.
Oh, it's almost comical because then he went back to playing again and his hair was gone again. It was like, wait a minute, what happened there? So that leads me into you talking about, I sent you that message about NBC. That starts this year.
Yes.
So Big Ten
New
games
media rights deal.
They're going to be the Big Ten Sunday night games or Saturday night games.
Yep.
So Blackledge, and it is Iron Eagle's son, and Catherine Tapper are going to do the games. So we were talking off the air, and I went and looked up all the schedules, and the only Big Ten versus Big Ten game is Ohio State and Indiana.
Week 1 you're talking about.
Week 1 next year when we play West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
All the other teams are playing. They're not really playing Power 5 teams. So, I mean, do you possibly think that Monday, that first game of the year versus West Virginia might be a night game?
I do. I really do. I mean, there's precedent for it for an early night game. You remember we played UCF here as a night game in 2013. We played Georgia State as a night game in 2017. There's definitely, I think, a better than even odds chance that Penn State, West Virginia is a nighttime kickoff, which would be awesome. It would be great.
Because it's not really a super well-attended game because it is Labor Day weekend. I know It's the first game, but a lot of people where we come from, they go down to the shore, get that one last weekend down there, and then they close their place up. But
I do think the students are back by then, though, right?
Yeah.
They bring them in before Labor Day now.
I think, they start before Labor Day because they have that first week, that first Monday off, and it's just like,
Right.
But they'll be here for sure. But do you, as NBC, say, hey, let's do a whiteout, our first Big Ten game on a Saturday night?
Yes,
I mean, I think that might be the play because
because, again, if Penn State knows that Michigan is going to be the big noon game,
it's going to be a noon game. So you need a marquee night game for the whiteout.
Yep.
And I think that I just thinking out loud, spitballing with you, I think that the Penn State West Virginia game might be that opening game. I really do.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. I mean, it's certainly way more compelling than Ohio State, Indiana. That's for sure.
But is the Saturday night going to be just Big Ten versus Big Ten, or is it going to be the other teams?
I don't know. I'm sure it's going to be a similar system to what we've had previously, where there's kind of a round robin draft where the different partners get to pick the games. I have looked at that NBC night game as the ray of hope for Penn State fans who were, pretty concerned about all the marquee games getting put at noon because of Fox. So now that primetime slot is there on NBC, we're going to get our fair share of big games at Beaver Stadium at night, which is great. And yeah, man, I think that would be a lot of fun from a fan standpoint. I'm sure it would do killer ratings. West Virginia is a big name brand. They
still have a name, man.
Yeah, no doubt. And having a Penn State versus West Virginia game in the first week of the season, and then being able to market the nighttime atmosphere of Beaver Stadium, again, maybe also the whiteout first game on NBC. And Penn State should be at worst, a top 7 team to start the season. I think for sure there's a real good chance we're going to see that.
I like it. As soon as I saw it, I thought, okay, here we go. I have a pretty good feeling about that. But just give us the night, and then. So I'm going to go back now. So our games are no longer ABC, ESPN. They're done.
Nope, that's over with.
They're all done.
I believe so. Yeah.
So it's Fox, FS1, FS2, and NBC, or Big Ten Network,
and CBS.
And CBS.
Yeah. So Fox. So Fox is, you've got Fox Network, FS1, Big Ten Network. That's kind of the Fox vertical. Okay. There's NBC, and then there's CBS.
Now CBS is going to be, they're jumping ship from the SEC, right?
Well,
so they're going to have that fork.
Jumped ship from them, but yes.
Yeah, I mean, so the SEC is full-time ABC, ESPN, right?
Correct.
So they're no longer running NBC. So they're going to have that 4 o'clock slot open now too.
Yep.
So now you're thinking about noon, 4, and 8 o'clock as being the marquee games in the Big Ten.
Correct.
So now I got to think about how, the first game, obviously, who has first choice this year? How's that going to go down? I mean, oh, man, you're right. I don't like the marquee games being at noon. I love a 4 o'clock. I love a 6 o'clock. I love an 8 o'clock game. They're fantastic. And then the CBS thing, I don't know. It would be nice if they're going to keep that 4 o'clock slot for the Big Ten.
I believe that's the plan.
But
I mean, they're even keeping the theme song the same, which is a little weird to me. I don't know if you saw the commercials they were running during bowl season, where they were playing like the CBS college football theme, which in my mind I associate with SEC games.
Yeah.
And they're just showing all Big Ten schools. It was cognitive dissonance. It was very weird.
What? Stop with your words. Come on. Even my dog just looked over at me like, what the hell did he just say?
Anyway, it was strange.
It was. It is. And it's going to be. So then you're 1 year away from UCLA and USC coming in here. I mean, you're going to have more nighttime games. I mean, like I said, I can't wait to be placing that Rutgers second half over bet at 12:15 in the morning from a 10 p.m. kickoff. Absolutely. Live betting at midnight on a Big Ten game. Come on, Booch. Times are changing, baby. Times are changing.
UCLA Northwestern, points scored in the second half.
Oh, absolutely. Absolute team totals. No, I know there's been a lot of turmoil in the last few years, but I think the next 2 years are going to be freaking crazy because I'm looking at the the Big 12 schedule next year. I thought Texas and Oklahoma are leaving this coming season.
They're not. They're
really not now, right? That's what I was looking at.
I think the Big 12 just told them to get bent. They're like, we don't have to let you out, and we're not going to.
So you're spending one more year.
Yeah, that's how it seems.
Wow. Okay. But, hey, it'll be interesting to see how the SEC shapes up and see what they're going to do. If they're going to just pass around the little boys and getting smacked around while the big boys never play each other. Are they going to do that with Oklahoma and Texas? Are they going to be in the West? They're going to split them up?
Well, what I'm curious to see on that is whether or not Oklahoma and Texas are going to get treated by the SEC the way Penn State and Nebraska got treated by the Big Ten.
We got treated completely different.
Well, Nebraska got the red carpet rolled out for them.
Oh, absolutely they did.
But if you look in the last several years, like they've been screwed pretty hard.
With?
Like scheduling, calls, everything. Really, I mean, where they really kicked it into overdrive was when they tried to fight Kevin Warren on the football cancellation. Then they got it both barrels. But after Rutgers and Maryland got brought in, Nebraska's like fair-haired child status within the conference went away. Now, I'm not trying to compare. Penn State was treated worse for sure. But really, my broader point is the SEC going to kick around Oklahoma and Texas the same way Penn State got kicked around when they joined the Big Ten? I
mean, did Texas A&M? I think today I still don't see Texas A&M as an SEC school.
Well, and I think the SEC kind of feels the same way, right?
I do.
Yeah.
But did you see? I saw a stat the other day. Teams that are projected to possibly go to the playoff this year. Penn State's one of them, and then Texas A&M is in there, of course.
Okay.
Of course they should be. All 4 and 9 teams should be out there, right?
Let me make a comment on Texas A&M never really being fully integrated into the SEC. If they were respected inside their own conference, there's no way Texas ever would have been a member.
Correct.
Because you realize that was done without consulting A&M.
Yep.
They just dropped it in their lap like, oh, hey, by the way, I know you left the Big 12 to get away from them. Well, guess what?
Well, they're back. We're going to make a lot of money off of them.
Yeah.
I think the Texas and Oklahoma are in for a rude-ass awakening, man.
I do too.
Really, really, really rude-ass awakening.
I think Oklahoma especially. Texas, I mean, Texas is, I know this is like the same old song. People have been singing about them for a decade. But everything they need to be competitive on the level you need to compete in the SEC is there. Like they've got everything lined up in a way that I don't think Oklahoma quite does. And there's so much talent in their backyard. You really only need a couple of very good recruiting cycles, and then boom, you've got a team that should be able to compete with, everybody but maybe Georgia and Alabama consistently.
Now, you remember Goon's theory on Texas players?
No, what's that?
They are so well coached in high school.
Oh, they have
that a lot of them have peaked.
Yeah.
There's not much room for improvement sophomore or freshman to senior year. Because it's a hat tip to Texas high school football. I mean, these kids are that well coached. They have already maybe they haven't physically peaked, but they're definitely well coached enough to understand. And they sort of tap out. They sort of max out a little bit, and that's why I feel like the Texas kids. I mean, they really haven't done anything in a long time. A&M or Texas.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. For what high school coaches get paid in Texas, they better be developing the talent.
Oh yeah, but then you have teams like TCU, Texas Tech, Baylor, who are the less 5-star recruit kids are getting from Texas. Those top tier kids are going to the big schools, and the smaller ones are going there, and they're having more. I think that they're having a lot more success than the big schools in the state of Texas.
Yeah,
I mean TCU for sure, Baylor, absolutely, Texas Tech.
I'll tell you what those schools don't have that Texas and A&M both do is the curse of expectations and all the crazy boosters that come with it. Yep. I mean, look, how many times has Texas hit the reset button since they ran Mac Brown out of there? Right? And all Mac's done is gone back to North Carolina and make North Carolina football relevant again. And they just keep trying over and over again. And one thing you can say, and we're living through it right here at Penn State, is there is a lot of value in consistency and staying the course. And when you blow the whole thing up and start over, you typically set your program back a few years. Unless you make, I mean, look, if you're Ohio State and you have to let Jim Tressel go and you hire Urban Meyer, great. Like, yes, if you take the big swing and you make contact, you can potentially hit it out of the park. But the number of schools that have tried that and whiffed is way higher. And Texas just keeps whiffing and whiffing and whiffing. And I think I think it's cumulative. I think they just keep digging the hole deeper and deeper because honestly, you look at the top high school talent that's out there right now, the top transfer portal talent. Do they even remember when Colt McCoy lost the national championship? They sure as hell don't remember watching Vince Young play USC. So I don't even know that the Texas mystique is really there anymore in a meaningful way.
Vince Young was 2005. It's 23, so these kids weren't even born yet. They're high school seniors.
Right. And and McCoy was what, 2009?
I don't know.
You're talking about a long time ago. What most people, if you're a recruit now, your memory of Texas is that they're kind of a joke. They're the team that's always starts off ranked in the top 15 and then they suck.
Yeah, well, just like the way A&M is right now, my God. So before we get off here, I know you mentioned the name, and I haven't even thought about it. Who is being bounced around as Kevin Warren's replacement for Big Ten commissioner?
Oh, you know what? You told me, and I can't remember.
I don't remember. No, I don't remember. I didn't tell you. I haven't heard a thing.
I'm trying to remember. There were a couple of names I heard mentioned, but there was one. Oh, Barry Alvarez was the crazy one I heard people bringing up.
Well, that would be.
It would be very Big Ten to hire
it would
Barry
be the
Alvarez
ultimate Big Ten, yes.
2023.
But I remember telling a story, and this is what you probably remember, but I did tell my one friend who was on a message boards one time, I said, hey, this is inside info, and I'm just joking with you, but tell people that the leaders and legends divisions were going to be called Schembechler and Woody Hayes, and he put it on the Penn State message boards, and the message board people went absolutely bonkers for about a half hour, and then I finally, before like rationale finally took over. But that was a classic Big Ten moment. Hiring Barry Alvarez is that. That would be the most cliche Big Ten. Or they'd hire some guy who got fired by Michigan 5-10 years ago who ran Domino's for a while.
Boy, good God, what was that guy's name?
Fired. I know that.
Yeah. Oh, he was terrible. Man, I can't think of his name. He was the guy that was the Michigan athletic director, came from Domino's Pizza, and he had the idea. He tried to get people to buy football tickets that if you bought a Michigan football ticket, you got 2 free Coca-Colas. Remember that? God, I wish I could remember his name.
But he was like a billionaire in the Domino's world, and he just tries to go help Michigan football out.
Terrible.
Then he blows Michigan football up and hires outside, hires Rich Rodriguez.
Disaster.
Brings him in, and they it's tough trying to change
Dave Brandon. His name was Dave Brandon.
Jesus.
Disaster.
Okay, Rain Man. Now you're no longer Powder or Casper. You're freaking Rain Man. That's crazy. Good for you, though. Nice memory. So you have not heard anybody other than Alvarez?
I haven't. And I don't think I don't even it's necessarily even going to be like a football or a sports administration guy. Like you look at the NCAA just went out and got a former governor. Who knows? They can pull from anywhere. They can pull from the business world. They can pull some retired congressman or something for his lobbying connections. I really don't know. I don't know the direction they're going to go. But again, like I think the most important thing you need in a conference commissioner anymore is somebody who understands how to negotiate media rights. Everything else you can outsource. You can hire somebody else to do anything else. But you need somebody to sit at a negotiating table and deal with, Fox and CBS and NBC.
Yeah. Do you think he got run out of town because of the expansion stuff?
I don't think so. I really think that he was not popular going all the way back to the COVID-19 stuff. I do think that was part of it. And I think he very aggressively wanted to expand beyond UCLA and USC, and the university presidents in the Big Ten ultimately didn't want to do that. So I don't think he was super happy. I don't think they loved him. I think they loved all the money he brought in. But truly, at the end of the day, I think he was kind of a Bill O'Brien. I think he always wanted to go back to the NFL. And when the Bears came calling, they had a big paycheck. They offered him all the power and control that he wanted. And don't forget, he was previously with the Vikings. So this is a chance to maybe go back and show up his old employers. I think it was more he wanted to go than the presidents wanted him out.
Now, as UCLA and USC, they can't be happy that they stopped the expansion. I mean, you got to think that they were told other West Coast teams were coming.
So here's the funny thing about that. To me, I figured if you're UCLA and USC, you want some other West Coast partners just so you don't have to pay so much for travel.
Sure, absolutely.
But everything I have read and people I've talked to, and granted, it's all kind of like third-hand stuff, is that my understanding is that they didn't want any other Pac-12 leftovers. They did not want to have to compete for the attention inside the conference or share the pot with Washington or Oregon or even like some retreads, like even like a Stanford or an Arizona State or somebody like that. That it was UCLA and USC were actually actively opposing adding more former Pac-12 teams. I don't know. I can't say for sure that's true, but I can say that I have heard that repeatedly from totally independent sources.
I mean, that's a hell of a travel budget they're going to rock.
I know. I think it's wild.
When I say travel budget, I'm not talking football and basketball.
You're talking about the other sports.
And then everyone, there's no bus trips. Like Ironhead's on a bus right now out to Columbus, Ohio.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're no one's leaving L.A. and heading out to Lincoln. You know what I mean? You're flying your field hockey team. You're flying your swimming team, your diving team, your gymnastics team. And then what about the others, like 10 sports that the Pac-12, the UCLA and USC have, but the Big Ten has no – like I know we don't have polo.
Yeah, I don't
I
know,
know we don't
man.
have water polo.
That's a really good question. They're probably going to have to be in some kind of regional, like Cal system conference, kind of like volleyball isn't in the men's volleyball is in the
Yeah.
EVIA, not the
I
Big
don't
Ten.
think it's over, Christopher. I don't think it's over. Because, like, okay, just take it case in point, Notre Dame plays Big Ten hockey.
Right.
I think the Pac-12 tells USC and UCLA to kiss their ass when they say, well, we still want to compete in these other 9 sports.
That's probably true. But I mean, again, like there are so many universities in that part of the country, even just within California, they can find opponents for their, their water polo team. They'll just play like Cal State Fullerton and stuff like that,
I mean, they could just stay in California, just that state alone.
Yeah, and I do still think sometime in the future you're going to see like remote campus locations get built for the Big Ten. So like your West Coast teams and your East Coast teams can plan multi-week swings where they're on the opposite coast and multiple teams play both opponents and vice versa.
It just seems so bizarre to me. But what you're saying is putting a place to say like like not halfway, but somewhere in the Midwest, with an indoor facility, hotel, like stuff for the players, classrooms for the players. Correct? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah, because think about it. So, like, let's say you're coming east.
I understand the theory.
Yeah.
But wow.
And there's a place you can train, you can do your remote classes. We already know you can do that because of COVID. And so then you stay and you play Penn State, Maryland, Rutgers, and Michigan State. And then it's back to the
So you live in the Midwest for a month as a USC and UCLA. No way.
Repeatedly. And again, like to your point, I just don't know how they're going to manage the logistics of like every freaking Olympic sport team is crisscrossing the country multiple times a year to play a conference schedule.
I hear you, buddy. Pretty cool.
All right, good stuff, man. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, buddy. I'll be on Tuesday, but I'll be gone Thursday, so I'll have my Super Bowl stuff next week. I'm probably going to go with the Eagles. I'm leaning a little towards the Eagles.
It's a different feeling this time, isn't it?
I agree. It's almost like it would be a horrible letdown if it would be a Tampa Bay / Carolina NFC title game feel to me.
I don't know about that. I mean, Christ, you're playing a guy who's in the 5th or 6th year of his career, and he's already a lock for the Hall of Fame.
He's in his 3rd straight Super Bowl.
Yeah,
no, not straight, but
yeah. This is a team, a quarterback who's really good, and a team who's really good. To me, it's more like they've already done it. The monkey's off their backs. They have the win, and so as you know, there's a little bit of a house money feel to me with all of it. And again, to bring the whole thing full circle, all the credit in the world to Howie Roseman. He, as so often happens after you win a Super Bowl, the roster gets torn down.
Yep.
And he built it back up into a team that's just as good, if not better.
And I do want to say this because I won't have you on the air next week to talk about it, but Andy still has not had a big game choke this year.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about that angle. Maybe next week. All right. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. This has been the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show. Reminder, the all-you-can-eat wing bar is opening up if you're local here in State College at Quaker Steak and Lube. That's every Tuesday from 4 o'clock to close. Go out and check that out and go to the Lube anytime you're in the mood for delicious wings. You want to watch the game. You want to sit at the bar and have a cold one and talk with your friends. Or Tuesdays and Thursdays between 3 and 4 p.m., you want to come out and hang out with the Goon and the Ironhead. Good luck to the Penn State wrestling team and beat the Buckeyes. Same to the hockey team. They really need to get that one for sure. Correct. That is a big series coming up against Ohio State. And we hope you all have a great weekend. And to paraphrase the Ironhead, until we talk next, be good and be safe. Go Bird.
Make more good in the all-new Sportage X-Pro. Kia, movement that inspires.
Quaker Steak and Lube is throwing open the garage doors and setting up the umbrellas. It's patio season. Come enjoy great food, drinks, and fun in the sun. There's always something happening at Quaker Steak and Lube, but we're really amping up our event calendars for our favorite time of year. Visit thelube.com to find out what's happening at your local lube this season. Lunch, happy hour, dinner, or late night, indoors or outside, at Quaker Steak and Lube, you'll always find big flavors, friendly faces, and lots of fun.
New Trail Brewing Company proudly crafts their beers right here in central Pennsylvania. Brewed with only the best possible ingredients, New Trail produces a variety of year-round brands as well as weekly experimental recipes. New Trail Broken Heels is Pennsylvania's favorite local hazy IPA. This beer is smooth and full-bodied. Hand-selected Citra hops lead to notes of bright clementine and juicy ruby red grapefruit. Broken Heels is perfect for a pregame tailgate all the way through the victory celebration.
What's the best mid-size pickup? Tacoma. What's the number one mid-size truck in resale value? Tacoma. Want to get great gas mileage, 4 doors, and 4-wheel drive? Tacoma. Sioka Toyota of Williamsport has over 25 available right now. You can lease a brand new, never-driven Toyota Tacoma for just $379 a month. That's 30 months, $3,000 cash or trade, 10,000 miles a year. This is while supplies last. Buy yours or reserve yours today and see the Sioka difference. And remember,